everybody, welcome to the first video of a little project that I'm starting. Now, I have no idea what to call this series of videos, so if you have a cool name or something to call it, definitely let me know. So let me tell you about the project a little bit, and then we'll talk about the name at the end of the video. But recently I've been getting into more of the hobby aspects of gaming, board gaming, tabletop gaming, painting miniatures, building terrain, all that kind of stuff. So it all kind of started when I bought this Reaper Bones Learn to Play kit. Painted 3 miniatures out of there, had a good time with it. Very nice, you know, solo time, just hanging out, chilling, watching movies and painting. You can take a break from it, you can go off and do what you want. And it's just kind of also a way I've found to sort of reinvest myself into a game that I'm really enjoying and really kind of decking it out and blinging it out and all that kind of fun stuff. So I kind of moved on to Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, which I've painted all of the miniatures for and all the expansion miniatures and all that stuff. And it will be relevant to this blog, but I'm going to go ahead and link to posts on Board Game Geek where I've got pictures of all that, so you can kind of see the results of the process that I use as well. So if you think it sucks, then you can say like, well, I'm not going to use that process. But anyway, you can have a look at that. So I'm getting more into like kind of the Warhammer stuff and also Imperial Assault. Now this all kind of got started, I blame all of this on Ben Waxman, who's become a friend of mine, and he initially offered to paint my base set of Imperial Assault. He watches the videos, and so he's painted several of the miniatures in here. He's painted a lot of stuff for me over time, and after a while I kind of started saying to myself, I think kind of naturally, like, well, I should be doing this, I should be painting these, you know, these are my games, this is a game I really enjoy, I should be doing this. So I just kind of slowly got into it, starting with the Learn to Play kit and so on, and now I'm going to be painting the Bestman stuff, hopefully, if I have time. You'll kind of see why I won't have time here in a second, but that's kind of the plan. And so what I've been kind of doing is just having fun with this and getting involved with it. I haven't really been putting it down on video, just been doing kind of my normal reviews and playthroughs and all that stuff. But a few folks have seen pictures I posted on BGG of the miniatures I painted, and just through some discussions on Twitter, they're like, hey, that's really interesting, you know, what do you do, what's your process, and you know, what do you think, what kind of paints do you use, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a whole kind of story that goes back, and I'm not going to bore you with that with an old friend of mine, but so I kind of started to get more into like, okay, I'm going to build a table, you know, I'm going to build a miniature table with terrain, I'm going to use miniatures and all that stuff. And a lot of that was driven by picking up the Age of Sigmar starter box as well as some other models and playing with the rules. Now, I know this game gets a lot of flack, and I'm not obviously a miniatures gamer by trade or whatever, you know, I play board games, but I will say, just a quick little plug, this game has really evolved over the last year, and I know if you're not in the miniature community, maybe you wouldn't realize it and you think this is still kind of a punchline. It definitely is not anymore, and I think it's really kind of taken off. I know at a local shop here, folks have really started picking it up and playing it, and just me from visiting some of the communities online and stuff, they've really sort of slowly trickle out the rules for the game, and probably by intention. So I highly would recommend picking this up. But I started by downloading what's called a war scroll for the different characters and figures that are in Warhammer Quest, because you can just go on their website, download a 4-page rule set, and then you download kind of the individual stats and abilities for each of the figures. Well, they have all those for all of the characters in Warhammer Quest. So my son and I, we threw out some Heroescape terrain and just played like a couple rounds with like 3 guys. And it was like, huh, this is really cool. Kind of fun, you know, I have the different spells I can cast, there are different abilities, and we just kind of set up a little small, I guess 2x2 was the terrain that we set up, and then we just kind of played, and it was really fun. It was just really quick, kind of cool miniature game, you know, it kind of reminded us of playing Heroescape back when my kids were younger. So I started getting into that and just kind of slowly trickled in and got kind of sucked in. So the interesting part for me of sort of the miniature side of the gaming is definitely not like building a 2,000 point army and playing in competitive tournaments and stuff. That just doesn't float my boat at all. But what does interest me is old games like Mordheim and Necromunda, which if you're not as old as I am, you probably wouldn't remember, and I frankly don't remember them either. But the concept of those games is to build sort of a campaign and almost an RPG-like style game out of that, where you have a little war band or group, and you go through different missions, and you play it competitively against other players. So you play the miniature skirmish game, and then you collect loot and all that kind of stuff, and so your characters will level up and get different abilities and all that stuff. And that sounds really cool. Now, it takes a lot of work. You got to build terrain, you got to build a table, you got to paint the miniatures and build the war bands and stuff like that. So that is really sort of have grabbed me. And so I'm trying to combine sort of that project that I have, is to play these two games, and I'll talk about those games now, but to also do that and then also sort of document all of the process, because I'm doing this all here. So I'm building a table, I'm going to build terrain, I'm going to get different kinds of terrain, I'm going to showcase some different terrains, some different battle mats that you can pick up, and also different types of miniatures, which will make more sense in a second, and different games. And so the different styles of all of these things, I'm sort of kind of building this bastardized hybrid, abomination of a miniatures thing as I do this. So I figured I'm going to go through this, and I'll just kind of sort of document or video log that whole creation from my perspective. And I will certainly link other folks' videos. There's a lot of painting videos of folks that teach you how to paint and all that kind of stuff, and other folks that build their own terrain. They build them out of trash and stuff and old boxes. So I'll talk about that, all kinds of things. So the idea is that I'm going to talk about all of these different ways you can kind of approach it, because I think it's kind of intimidating from someone like me. Let's say randomly I like to play Descent or Shadows of Brimstone, and I'm like, that's really fun, and I also like to play Euro games and stuff and other board games. So I pick them up, open them, play them, shut them down, and throw them back on the shelf. That's really cool. But then there's like that extra kind of thing that you see and you go, oh, that's neat, look at that awesome miniature they painted, or look at that crazy table, and look at that, they ran that campaign for a year and they did all. So I think I just want to document that, because it's a process I'm going through, and I think other people may have interest in that. So the way I do stuff will not necessarily be best or right or highest quality, but I have a mindset of going into it as something that I can get done relatively quickly, relatively cheaply as possible, and getting kind of the best results. So it's kind of going to be sort of not lowest common denominator, I don't think, but I've been doing a lot of research over the last several months and all these different things, trying to figure out, okay, do I buy the $800 table board from Games Workshop? And then the answer is quickly, no, that's not going to work. That's ridiculously expensive. How do I build a table? What's the best way to do it? How do I store all of this stuff? Because I've got, a decent sized house, but it's not very big. And I've got 2 shelves of board games and a little pile here, and that is like my allotted space for game stuff. So how can I squeeze in a 6 foot by 4 foot table and all these other miniatures? Where am I going to put all that stuff? So it's also going to be very much economical in terms of money, and also space, which I've figured out and worked out. So the end goal target is going to be these 2 games. Now the first game, which I already talked about, is the Warhammer Age of Sigmar stuff. Now, this is the reboot of Warhammer. I'll maybe do another video talking about that. What is Age of Sigmar? There's a lot of videos out there. Most of them are snarky, but there's a few out there that are not snarky. And then this one here, this just came out maybe about a month ago now. This is the General's Handbook. And this is kind of the book that should have came out when the base game came out. I would certainly agree with that, I think. And this kind of gives you different formats that you can play. It talks about competitive formats and doing points and tournament stuff, which I'm not interested in. But this also has building war bands and campaigns. So similar to a game like Necromunda or Mordheim or something like that, you can build a game with multiple war bands and play through, level up, get loot, get special abilities and rewards and all that stuff, and then eventually have a winner and not have to play for months and months and months. And it has a nice RPG thematic aspect to it, instead of just kind of the whole number crunching miniatures tactics, which it still has. So that's game A. Well, I'm going to go and build a big table and paint all these minis and use them for one game that I'm going to play maybe regularly, or semi-regularly with my son. That's a lot of investment. So the other thing that I've come across, and Osprey Publishing was kind enough to send these to me. This is a game called Frostgrave here, and this is sort of the main rule book. It's not very big. It's this is only $25, and it's a nice hardback, and you can get these other supplements and stuff. And so this is the other game that I was interested in, and this is a similar game to kind of the Mordheim, or playing what's called the Path to Glory, or maybe a map campaign in Age of Sigmar. As you build up a warband, you visit this frozen city that's thawing called Felstad, and you go in with your warband and get points, and you play competitively over the course of a campaign. Now this one is miniatures agnostic, so you can use Bone Reapers miniatures, you could use Warhammer miniatures, you could use whatever, as long as it's right around that 28 millimeter scale, or you could use smaller as long as they're all kind of the same scale. So the table is going to be used for both of these, and so I'm going to be able to use miniatures across the different lines. So that's kind of the intro to this project. So each of the videos is going to be targeted towards the each kind of aspect, so kind of slowly building it, kind of almost like working my way from the board game side into finally, you know, maybe a couple of battle reports of Frostgrave and doing some you know, some Age of Sigmar stuff as well. So that's what the kind of the plan is. And the first thing I'm going to talk about today is just the miniatures themselves. We're not going to talk about painting them. I know a lot of people are going to be like, okay, I'm going to turn it off because, you know, maybe I already paint miniatures. I don't need to hear this again. But I'm just going to kind of generally talk about some different types of miniatures from different games for different purposes and kind of the range that I'm looking at here. And then the next time we'll talk a little bit about painting them and all that. So let's just jump in and take a look at the different types of miniatures and go from there. Okay, so here's just sort of a quick setup of stuff that I'm looking at. So the first thing we're talking about here are these Reaper miniatures, and obviously I'm going to be using these for Frostgrave. So I've got this fella here, and then his little buddy here, and these are going to be two of what's called the Chronomancer wizards I'm going to use. And you can see these are miniatures, of course, if you're familiar with them. They're just white, kind of soft plastic. You don't have to prime these. All you have to do is wash them, which I'll talk about later. And here we've got two witches here. So here's sort of the apprentice witch, and then here will be the main wizard witch there. Kind of stereotypical, but that's okay. And so we have those two Reapers there, and you can see this is actually the very first miniature I ever painted. This came in the Learn to Play kit. This is the skeleton there, and it walks you through step by step, and I will use him in my Frostgrave campaign. And then here's probably my favorite one out of that I painted. This kind of orc guy here, and so I'll be using these in Frostgrave as well. But you can kind of see the quality here, and these are a couple others that actually Ben sent me, and I have there, let's see if it'll focus. This gal is going to be, I forget, she's going to be some kind of wizard. I had them all set up in order, but she will be one of the wizards I could use in Frostgrave, and then this gal here will maybe be a soldier. You can get these kind of henchmen there, and so this is another Reaper miniature there. So that's that kind of miniature. Now the other sort of miniature are these from Imperial Assault. Now there's a little bit smaller scale, I think, than even the Reapers, or it's about the same as the Reapers, but it's not as heroic as the Warhammer ones that I'll show you. Now these are primed here. They don't come this color, so I've just primed these the other day, and these are some of the new ones from Bespin. So you can just kind of get a chance of the quality. Now these are a little bit harder plastic than the Reapers, and these, like I said, I did prime them. I washed them first, and then I primed them white. I like to prime my stuff white just because I can kind of see the different details, like you can see on the clothing there. Sometimes a lot of people like to seem to prime stuff black, but I don't. So I think it makes sense to prime black or white, kind of depending on the base color. But let's look here. Now these are ones that Ben actually did, and these are some of the Imperial Assault ones here. And Ben is a much better painter than I am. You can see very nice subtle details on these here. And this is the one bounty hunter, I can't remember his name. And he even does things, and this kind of stuff is the sort of stuff that sort of scares me. Like this guy's all white, but you can see kind of the subtle gradations there. If something is really high contrast, it's much easier, I find, to paint. But you know, anything that's a little bit more subtle is harder to do. Let's find the meat bag killer here. This is a droid from Imperial Assault. So you can see these are very nice as well, and I'm going to hopefully paint some of these Imperial Assault guys here. Here's the little hammerhead guy here. So that's kind of the two ranges I'm looking at. Now for the table project, I'm looking at the Reapers as well as the Warhammers here. So we'll start with how they start out. Now these start off obviously on sprues, and lots of games have this. Shadows of Brimstone is one. Let's see, Space Hulk I've put together. A couple other games I've put together. Dead Zone. I'll probably be doing a review of Dead Zone soon. A few other games. I will say, without a doubt, no question, the models that the little bit of model experience I have, the Games Workshop ones are 1,000 times easier to put together. and they look the best. They have the most detail. They're obviously the most expensive as well. Now this here is a pack of Retributors, and there's actually 2 of these fellas here that you can put together, and they always have, no matter what kind of size box set you buy, they'll have a little bit of instructions here how to actually put them together, which is nice. And then lately they seems like they've been adding these paint schemes, which are nice. I've got a couple others here, and I'll actually kind of show the process of putting these together as we kind of wash and prepare different types. I think both of these are for, I could be wrong, nope, it's these 2. These 2 are sprues for the Orruk Shaman, and you can actually use him in Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, as well as the Skaven Warlord here. And that's this guy. He's only on a single sprue. But you can see even on the backs of these, they tell you to put them together and glue them to the bases and all that stuff. Now these, after you glue these together, you got to wash them and then you got to prime them. So I've got 2 that were primed. These are going to be my Necromancer duo in Frostgrave. And both of these you can use in Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. So this gal is actually the sorceress in the Warhammer world. And she's kind of an older model, but you can still use her. And she's fancy. And then you have the actual Necromancer model here, which is this fella here. He's got, well, let's show his little skulls there. It's not coming out pretty good. You can kind of see the skull there. I got to paint it. So this guy and let's say his girlfriend here are going to be the 2 Necromancers that I use. Now, in the product, I will show here, let's show this guy. I really like this guy, because this is one of the coolest models that I painted from Silver Tower here. And this guy is the, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name. I want to say it's the Tenebral Shard, but it's not. That's an elf. I forget what this guy's called, actually. That's funny, because it's one of my favorite ones. I'm just having a brain fart. So he's really cool, and I thought I did okay on the subtleties of this robe and this weird blue mist stuff. But like I said, I'll have pictures of all this stuff on like Board Game Geek so you can kind of see. Now, the reason I'm showing you that, I'm kind of interested in showing you those pictures here. This is sort of your proverbial Stormcast Eternal. They're kind of like the iconic figure from the new Age of Sigmar. But anyway, I painted all this stuff with folk art. Now, I kind of picture a lot of people running away, screaming or laughing. But at least I did use these Citadel washes, okay? But anyway, I'll talk more about paints when we get to painting, but these are cheap. And Robert Oren, who has a great channel, and he's also on the Dice Tower now and again, he went through and covered a lot of paints. And when I get to that, I'll definitely link to his video. But I found these to work very, very well. Now, this guy is disgusting, rightly so. This is the Lord of Plagues. And so he's got this weird, gross skin. I kind of did a different color than they suggested. And you can see he's got all these gross pock marks and stuff. And he's like a Nurgle dude. So there you go. So he was, of course, painted with that. Now these 2 are battle mages. You actually can get a kit that is the battle mages here, and these will be elementalists in the Frostgrave universe. I'm going to use them as well, and then also you can use these in Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. That's why I really like that Frostgrave game, because I was like, oh cool, I have all these wizards and stuff, and I can just use them again. So anyway, this is the process of cut these out, wash them, prime them, and then start painting, and then you seal them and all that kind of good stuff. And then just kind of a little teaser, I guess. I built this little terrain here, and this is all paper on foam core. So this is actually printed on paper, glued to foam core, and cut out. So this is kind of like a ruined, which will work really good for Frostgrave. And I'll do a whole bunch more of these, and I'll talk about how, kind of just do a how-to on this. And there's a couple of folks on Drive-Thru RPG that make these kind of templates up and designs, and you don't have to actually do it on foam board, but I like to I want to throw all these in a tub with a bunch of other terrain that's going to be coming, so I can just store them easily. So that's kind of a general overview of stuff, and that's kind of the intro. If you have like requests for certain things or just questions, and I can just chat with you in the comments, that's fine. But the next thing I'll do is I'll just kind of put together some of these and wash some miniatures and get them ready, and then maybe do a little bit of painting and stuff, and then kind of move along from there and just kind of grow and slowly evolve this, kind of slowly over the next few months. And then hopefully end up, like I said, doing some battle reports for Frostgrave and running a campaign and doing some campaigns through the new Age of Sigmar stuff in the General's Handbook. I've been having a lot of fun playing. I haven't actually played Frostgrave yet, but I've been having a lot of fun playing just kind of small skirmish games of Age of Sigmar. Really fun, quick and easy, very quick and dirty. I mean, if you bought Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, download the rules, you know, download the war scrolls for each of these fellas here, and just have like a cool little 3-on-3 battle, and just, you know, it'd be a quick little half-hour thing, and it's super fun. So if you think of a name, I'm thinking like Drive-Thru Tabletop or Drive-Thru Hobby Vlogs or something. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to have drive-thru in it, but so if you think of a cool name, I'll definitely use it and maybe give you like 50 geek gold on Board Game Geek or something. Okay, so look forward to more of this. Thanks.